Hey everyone, it's Dr. B, and today is Tuesday, October 3rd, and this is week 6 for Social Work 674, fall of 2023. You are 1 week away from this being mid-semester, so congratulations. Just want to acknowledge how difficult it is, I know, to be in graduate school and be balancing not only being a graduate student, but also working and raising families and living life. And so, you know, so we must take the opportunities to recognize, recognize um, that this is hard work and that we're doing it. So I just want to take a moment to do that. So good for you. All right, so this is a quick check-in video. Like I said, it is week 6, and for I read, I've graded and provided comments for the interview questions proposal. So if you've not had a chance to look at my comments, please do so. As I mentioned in last week's video, you will get one of 3 potential responses. One is, looks good, you're good to go. No revisions or nothing necessary. The second is, looks good, but your questions need some revision. Maybe they're too close-ended, and that happened quite a bit. Per the assignment guidelines, the assignment does call for open-ended, qualitative, ethnographic questions. So very important that, if you receive that feedback, to go back in, review your questions, make sure that you revise them to be open-ended. A lot of times, when we do close-ended questions, that can be answered with a simple yes or no or a 1 or 2 word answer, it then prompts us to have to ask another question to get more information, and then another question for follow-up. And what that does is it makes the interview not feel like a dialogue, like a conversation, but rather more feeling like an interrogation. And it can be off-putting, and it doesn't yield the really in-depth, rich responses that you can get from qualitative questions. And so I have provided some feedback if that was the case. You would have gotten, comment could have been revise and move forward. No need to resubmit. That was one option. The third thing is you need to revise your questions and resubmit them to me. So make sure that you look at my comments. Those questions have to be approved before you can move forward with your interview. So make sure that you've looked over my comments. Also the same for your interview presentation check-in for week 5. I've looked those over and provided comments. Everybody seems to be moving on the right path. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But it seems that, the main recommendation that I made for the check-in is, if you haven't gone back and looked at my comments regarding your interview questions, please do so. The other thing is, you might have gotten when it asked why you selected this individual, if you maybe didn't specify that that part of it is that they're of a different religion or spiritual tradition than you, I might have asked you to clarify, is this person of a different religion or spiritual tradition than you? And that's because for this assignment, the interviewee must be of a different religion and spiritual tradition than your own. So really important that that you find somebody, or that the person that you have is different from you in that sense. So, but everybody seems to be doing overall doing pretty good. You would have received some sort of message from me if there was a concern. But either way, go make sure that you review my comments. Also, for your implementing self-meditation practices, I enjoy always looking at the videos that individuals post, or the different reflection exercises that are recommended. And it's great that that you all have tried different ones, even if they might not felt the most comfortable to you for you, but you tried it. And these are just things that could work for you or not work for you. But it's also good for you to have these sort of in your repertoire of potential suggestions for clients that might be interested in any sort of self-meditation practices, whether it's the walking labyrinth, whether it's self-guided imagery, whatever it may be. It's always good to be aware of some different options for clients, because some clients might not some clients might be interested but might not be aware of what's out there, or the variety and diversity of types of self-meditation practices. Some can be drawing, some can be physical, some can be, there's so many different things that you could do. And so it's important, this exercise is to get a little bit of some knowledge about different different self-meditation exercises, techniques that are out there that for yourself and or your clients, if it's something that they're interested in, and if it's something that they've asked you for guidance on. This is not something that we push, obviously, just as, it's something that if that is something that they're interested in. And many people for many people that identify themselves as religious, they tend to, for religious purposes or reasons because of religious beliefs, might not feel comfortable with self-meditation practices and exercises, and that's okay. So if somebody says this is not for me, then that's fine. All we can do is provide them with some factual information about what they are and why they might be useful for them, and take it from there. If the person's not interested, they're not interested. All right, so for this week, for week 6, a couple of things I want to just mention. We are talking this week about spiritual and religious development. And so you're going to be reading about some different theorists that talk about different theories of spiritual and or religious development. Such as Fowler, so Kohlberg's theory on moral development. There's some different things that you're going to be reading about, and hopefully it will provide you with an understanding of the literature on spiritual development. Things to keep in mind as you're learning about, Allport, Fowler, all of the different Wilbur, the different theories that you'll learn about in this week's reading, is that, they're very Eurocentric models for the most part. Fowler is probably one of the more, not Fowler, but Hodge might be one of the more recent developmental models or understanding of spiritual and or religious development in and he focuses more on adolescence. But regardless, some of these models have been critiqued for their Eurocentric standpoint, very Judeo-Christian perspective. So as with models of development, when we think in terms of human behavior and development across the lifespan, that we think that we've got to understand them and apply them with caution. I would say the same thing here, because they might not always reflect the lived experiences of the diverse people that individuals, families, groups that you will be working with. So very important to keep that in mind. And so also really important to keep in mind that a lot of these models really stress the importance of spiritual development and or religious development to only occur in conjunction with a cognitive development that was more abstract, and so therefore really ruled out the possibility of younger children or younger adolescents as potentially being spiritual and or religious. And so that's also something to keep in mind. And then you have, more the works of people such as Robert Cole, which is quite interested if you're interested in learning more about the spiritual development of children at a younger age, is somebody that I would recommend. I'm looking up here. Where are we? Robert Cole's book, which I've read several times, but Robert Cole talks about the spiritual lives of children. And so, and that's the name of the book. So if you're interested in more recent, but even that isn't quite that recent, but a more recent understanding of spiritual development in children that are younger, Robert Cole's The Spiritual Lives of Children is an excellent book for that as well. And so anyway, so for this week, you're going to be doing a discussion on case studies that you're asked to, there's 2 case studies you can choose from, and then apply the spiritual and or religious developmental models that you have read about to either of the 2 case studies. I also just want you to keep in mind that week 7, which is next week, on the Sunday of week 7, your reflection journal is due. So just kind of want to throw that out there, make sure you're aware of that. The reflection journal focuses on your own spiritual journey. And so therefore, make sure that you review the assignment guidelines if you have not already done so. But the journal should be between 2 to 3 pages long. And in it, you're asked 4 main, there's 4 main questions. And the first is to to identify and discuss your own personal beliefs and values, in particular as they relate to your spiritual and or religious beliefs and practices and traditions, and where those beliefs and values come from. That's the first part. That's the first question. Second question is, how do your own personal values, especially as those that relate to religion and or spirituality, fit in with those of the social work profession as outlined in the NASW Code of Ethics? So you want to make sure that you bring in the NASW Code of Ethics and discuss the 6 social work core values in your response. If there's differences between your own personal values and those of the profession, how will you address those differences? The third question is, it is crucial that professional social work values and not your own personal values guide your, or our, as social workers, our practice as social workers. So what are your strengths in this area, and what are some opportunities for growth, and how will you accomplish this growth? And then number 4 is, by next week, you'll have read, should have finished reading the first part of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. You're only to read the first section, which is his experiences in the Holocaust, in the Nazi concentration camps during the Holocaust. You're not to read, you don't have to, for this assignment or for this course, read the second part of the book, which deals with logotherapy. But for the first part, there's 2 questions that two different prompts that you can answer. You only have to answer one of the 2 prompts in question 4. And the first prompt is, Viktor Frankl presents the concepts of will to meaning, spiritual freedom, spiritual responsibility, and self-transcendence. In what ways can these concepts help you in your own personal and professional journey of self-discovery and self-growth? The second prompt is, what are your 3 key takeaways from this book, and how will you take the knowledge that you've gained from these 3 takeaways in the reading to use it to provide spiritually sensitive social work practice? Anyway, so just wanted you to give a heads up that week 7 assignment reflection journal is due on the Sunday of week 7. All right, it was great being able to see you all for this week's check-in. Take care, and we'll talk soon.